Sit back and grow your Ringgit sense. This program is powered by Ringgit Plus.
Hello there, I'm Azaria Tagaya, your host for Ringgit Sense Plus. Now, accidents on the road can happen at any time, even when it's no fault of your own. So how do you make an insurance claim? Well, we spoke to the General Insurance Association of Malaysia and asked them about a few situations, like what happens when your car is stolen. Will having more summonses increase your motor insurance premiums? Now, this is what their chairman, Anthony Lee, has to say. According to Anthony, the first thing you should do when you realize your car is stolen is to make a police report.
Immediately, what you have to do is obviously make a police report within 24 hours. That's the law. Then you must let your insurance company know within 7 days. We will then start the whole process. Police obviously has to do its piece. The police side can take up to 3 months. Our side, once we get all of that documentation in place, typically, shouldn't take more than 6 months maximum, 3 to 6 months. But we will go through that whole process to make sure that, yep, it's definitely stolen. The police report, shows that that's the case, and provided there are no exclusions in terms of what happened, negligence, etc., we will cover it, obviously, and make sure once we agree on that and settle with it, we obviously then take ownership of the whole thing.
So what happens if the police do find your car? What if the car is heavily cannibalized for parts, its doors and engine missing?
If we've already taken, the insurance company's taken ownership of the car, it's up to the insurance company what they want to do with it. So the person who has had the car, they've already given up the ownership, so nothing to do. If in the case it's found and the ownership has not been transferred, the person still has the right to take the car back if they want it, right? They obviously got to negotiate with the insurance company.
Some policies have this thing called inconvenience payment, where they will compensate you for the days you don't have a car. For example, your car gets into an accident and you need to take an e-hailing ride or public transportation to work. You can claim this amount from the insurance company. For those who drive e-hailing vehicles, whether part-time or full-time, make sure you have the right insurance coverage. Typical motor insurance coverage does not allow commercial use, so that means if you drive a vehicle as an e-hailing ride and get into an accident, the insurance company will not cover you. This is why you need the additional e-hailing coverage.
Yeah, so make sure if that's what you're doing, buy the e-hailing extension to your cover. So we've now come up with a specific extension that covers everything to do with e-hailing, so including the passenger, goods in the car, etc. Because this is now a profession, right? It's a different kind of role. So the good news is that is out there. Make sure the person who's doing the e-hailing buys that extension.
We also asked Anthony, what if there was an accident involving multiple cars? Say you're driving on the road and a car hits you in the back and you hit a car in the front.
So the good news is insurance companies have their own agreement where the car from the back hitting the car in front, that one is always the responsible one. So we will settle the claims following that process. And the reason for that is to make sure it all gets done very fast. Otherwise this thing could take forever and no one gets their cars back.
Even if a vehicle without insurance hits you, you can still claim from your own motor insurance company.
Obviously, you need to record the details of the number plate, etc., and the driver, ideally, and then police report to be made. Police need to take action against that individual because it's a criminal offense. And secondly is, the insurance company will still pay because you're the one who have your policy. They will take care of you, so you don't need to worry about that aspect. If let's say that person doesn't have any insurance, then it's a different process because by right it's a criminal act because they're driving without cover, and we have things like the Motor Insurance Bureau, etc., that will come in place when these situations occur. That's a pool funded by insurance companies, but that's not a good practice. The reality is we think there are about 3 million uninsured vehicles on the road, mainly motorcycles, and this is something that we all have to work collectively to stamp out.
If you get into an accident or even if your car breaks down on the highway, don't go with the first tow truck that shows up.
So whatever you do, don't, the first tow truck that shows up, don't just, go along with them, right? You call up your insurance company, tell them, I've had an accident, can you help me out? All of us typically have our own fleets of tow trucks. So we make sure that only our tow truck will show up and they will take care of you and take your car to our authorized workshop where we can guarantee the quality of the repairs. That's most important, right? And we can know that, it's going to be the fastest, the best possible. So don't just let the car be towed by anybody. And I think separately, the good news, I think the government's going to work hard to try and license these tow truck operators because they should not be unlicensed operators on the road.
Anthony says motor insurance will also be more expensive for drivers who are known to be reckless. Those with summonses will be asked to pay more for their motor insurance premiums. PM will start implementing what has already been done in other countries, where your risk factor as a driver will be decided by things such as how likely your car will be stolen. If your car is one of the top 10 most common stolen cars in Malaysia, you're looking at more expensive premiums too. In other countries, female drivers actually pay less premiums because they are considered better drivers and cause less trouble on the road. Younger drivers who have less experience also pay a higher premium.
Each insurance company can choose how they want to use it to price, but we know that in other markets, I think if you've had a summons, you are up to 3 times more likely to have an accident. If you have multiple summonses, that can go up to 5 times more likely to have an accident. That's statistics, right, based on data.
Anthony says the insurance industry is working with the Ministry of Transport to implement this and that it will happen soon, though he didn't give a specific timeline for it.
Besides making claims, another thing you should know is what additional coverage you can get with your motor insurance. We're on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to share with us your thoughts on motor insurance or learn about personal finance, take out your handphone and find us now. We're taking a short break and we'll see you later. Hello there, you're back on Ringgit Cents Plus with me, Azaria Tagaya. If you just joined us, we're talking about motor insurance. Now, how do insurance companies decide on the value of your vehicle? What are some of the additional coverage that you should get for your car? Now, we asked Ringgit Plus, a motor insurance aggregator, for tips in picking the right motor insurance.
Lucas Uy tells us there are typically 3 types of motor insurance policy covers.
I think some of the key things is what the motor insurance policy covers. Typically, there are 3. There is comprehensive, there is third party, and there's third party fire and theft. The one that is compulsory is third party, which means that instances where you cause damage to third parties, like you hitting another car, it will pay for that person's car damage. The other one, which is third-party fire and theft, is where it's the same as the previous one, but also if your car is stolen or it catches fire, you also get covered for that. Comprehensive covers you for your own car's damage as well. Those are the 3 main policies. Make sure you know which one you're buying because the coverage is different and the cost of the premiums are different as well.
The second thing you should consider when looking at policies is getting additional coverage for your car. For example, a popular one in Malaysia is coverage for instances of flooding, and also acts of nature such as falling trees or landslides. Lucas notes that you should read through the policy carefully, as some may offer you coverage for towing costs in the case that you may need it.
A rider is basically an additional add-on protection on top of your existing policy. So an example would be a very common one that most people would know about for motor insurance is windscreen cover. So what this means is if your car windscreen has damage, you can claim for the replacement of your windscreen because typical motor insurance policy will not cover it. Other add-ons are things like flood damage to your car. So if your car is damaged from a flood, the insurance add-on protection will cover you for the damage to the cost of the repairs. Another important one might be your own driver personal accident add-on, because a very common mistake is that your motor insurance policy covers you for bodily harm. So if you're in an accident and you break your leg, you think that your motor insurance policy will cover it. It won't. So unless you buy personal accident coverage as well.
Additionally, consumers with bigger families or those with small children should also consider having additional protection.
There are add-ons such as liability to passengers as well. Do look out for that when you are buying your motor insurance policy. There will be options for you to cover passengers in your car as well. That's pretty much the most important thing to cover. There is also another one that covers you for damage that they do while they are in the car. So if they start in their car, they're damaging traffic lights or they're going around and causing havoc at the back of the car, there is additional add-ons for that coverage as well.
Did you know consumers are also eligible for certain discounts on their insurance policies based on certain conditions?
No claims bonus is basically the insurer rewarding a policyholder of the motor insurance a benefit for not making a claim for the 1 year that the policy was in force. So let's say today is the 9th of January. I buy a policy today and it costs, an example, 1,000 ringgit for my car. Next year, when I come to renew my insurance on the 9th of January, the following year, if I have not made a claim or had not gone into an accident to make a claim, the insurance will reward me with a discount to the value of, will offer me a discount, to the second year's policy, the consecutive policy that I renew with them. So rather than paying 900 ringgit, it might be 700 ringgit.
A good thing to note is that the no claims bonus is transferable in case you decide to switch insurance companies. Lucas also offers some tips for owners of second-hand vehicles.
Typically, second-hand cars of the same car would be cheaper than a new car. Very few cars have that opposite effect. So from an affordability point of view, it's probably better to buy a second-hand car because the cost of the car is lower, which means the premium for your insurance policy will also be lower. With inflation and with things going up in price in Malaysia, sometimes it's difficult to make payments on your insurance. It's actually illegal to drive on the road without motor insurance. So don't make the mistake of not having it insured. The most important thing though is to make sure when your existing motor insurance policy expires, so you know when to make that renewal.
After the break, we'll be talking to a licensed financial advisor on what alternatives do Tabung Haji depositors have in growing their money to perform their Hajj. As always, the stories you're watching here are also available on our Facebook page and YouTube. If you have a few minutes, invest in yourself and learn about managing your money. We'll be back shortly. Back on Ringgit Sense Plus with me, Azaria Tagaya. Lembaga Tabung Haji recently announced that it will be paying its depositors hibah or dividends for 2018 after restoring its balance sheet. Its Chief Executive Officer, Datuk Sri Zukri Samad, warned depositors not to expect much because of the weak performance of the equities market last year. We at Ringgit Sense Plus wanted to know, are there alternatives for Muslims to fund their Hajj or pilgrimage besides depositing their money in Tabung Haji? Well, we asked a licensed financial advisor, what's the best way to grow your money for your Hajj?
If you've never opened a Tabung Haji account before, here's a brief explanation of how it works. The normal route to perform the Hajj is through Lembaga Tabung Haji. How you do this is simple. Register your name by opening an account with them. Once you open an account, you need to have at least 1,300 ringgit in your account to get your name in the waiting list for Hajj registration. If you don't have the 1,300 ringgit, you can use your EPF money to transfer into your Tabung Haji account. The waiting list works on a first-come, first-served basis, so it may take you a few years before your turn comes up, so register early. When your turn does come up, let's say it's this year, then you need to have 9,980 ringgit in your account to pay for your Hajj. Tabung Haji heavily subsidizes the actual cost, and this amount will probably increase over the next few years with inflation. By the time your turn does come up a few years down the road, you probably need more than that. The advantage of saving money with Tabung Haji is that depositors do not have to pay zakat for money saved with them. We asked Rafiq Hidayat, a licensed financial planner and advisor, for his advice.
The maximum amount that I would advise most of my clients to save is the 9,980. The reason being is that while Tabung Haji has been giving good returns, net of zakat, it's actually only limited to the first 9,980 ringgit. So, and if you had gone for Hajj, then the additional bonus for people who are going to Hajj is not provided to you. So anything above 9,980 ringgit, you just get the basic dividend or hibah given to you. So I would then advise anything more than that, you save in other similar instruments.
Rafiq says there are a few alternatives available that are also Sharia compliant.
One of the similar options with Tabung Haji is that you can use the Amanah Harta Nawami Putra or AHB. So it's actually a unit trust fund investing in commercial properties in KL, in which it's also similar to Tabung Haji, it's net of zakat. So whatever returns or dividends or hibah that you get, you don't have to deduct the zakat anymore. So historical returns, they have been giving an average between 2.8 to 3.3% every 6 months. So every 6 months, the dividend would then be deposited into your Maybank account, and then you will actually have to physically transfer it back. So it's not automatically reinvested. So that's the only pain part with regards to using AHB as your vehicle. But it gives you a higher annual return compared to Tabung Haji. The other option that you might want to use without taking too much risk is actually ASB. So, okay, ASB is known to give generally higher returns, but if you take into account the zakat portion on the capital that is then invested, then the returns are then back comparable to Tabung Haji. However, if you then choose the option of ASB financing, then the returns that you're talking about would be slightly different. You're talking about higher returns, but less payable in terms of the zakat that you have to pay. So, in addition to that, you can still look into other types of investments, depending on the horizon. So, let's say you're talking about 10-year horizon with regards to the investment. So, you can look into things like unit trusts. You can look into things like REITs or even stocks. Just be careful in terms of the selections of your portfolio so that you then get to your goal.
There are always other investment instruments such as unit trusts and property, but you do have to pay the zakat for the profits gained on your own. Just remember that most investments do not have guaranteed returns and you can lose your money.
Okay, so I personally believe that tabung haji should be a savings instrument instead of investment instrument, because the main purpose of tabung haji in itself was to help Malaysians to go for pilgrimage. It's actually not to help Malaysians go rich, which is the main reason for investment vehicles. Okay, so taking that into account, I would say tabung haji is a savings account. It's a high yielding savings account. Okay, in which it also has the added benefit that it's net of zakat. Means for the Muslim depositors, you do not have to pay at the additional 2.5% of the capital that is then saved in tabung haji. Okay. However, if you're looking to use it purely as a tool in order to generate or accumulate wealth, I would suggest to look into other instruments.
Normally, the waiting period before your Hajj turn comes up is quite long, so investors would normally have a time horizon of 10 years or more.
Actually, if you have 10 years, even if you save tabung haji, you're talking about 50 to 60 ringgit a month. You're not even talking about percentage of your income. It's just like maybe one full tank worth of petrol. So that's the amount that you'll be saving on a monthly basis for the next 10 years. And able to do that, then you should be able to go for Hajj whenever that time is. But if, let's say, you want to go for the packages and you're choosing the most expensive package, so let's take example the 149,990 package. So obviously you need to save a lot more. So, but the amount of people who will be able to save for that kind of thing is probably your top 20% of income earners in Malaysia.
There are also authorized travel agents that offer Hajj packages with better amenities like nicer hotels. Just looking at Tabung Haji's travel package, the most expensive one is almost 200,000 ringgit. If you want to go for these packages, then you would definitely need to save up more money for when your turn comes.
As always, speak to a licensed financial advisor before making a financial decision. The advice we offer might not be right for everyone and serves more as a general guide. What might work for others might not work for you. If you want to learn more about personal finance or have questions about money, visit our Facebook page. You can also share the interviews you've watched today from there. I'm Azaria Tagaya, and we'll see you next week. Remember to invest and save wisely.
Tune in next week and visit ringgitplus.com today for more Ringgit wisdom. This show is brought to you by Ringgit Plus.